Representing China's issues today are Brooke, Tash, Aidan, Lagai, Katerina, and myself, Rachel. China is situated in both the northern and eastern hemisphere and also occupies a huge part of Eastern Asia. The closest ocean to China is the Pacific Ocean. As China, we are the world's biggest manufacturing economy, with a share of 23% of manufacturing activity, but also the world's most populated country, with a population of 1.3 billion. Almost everything mankind needs is manufactured in China, such as ships, coal, pork, cement, shoes, mobile phones, solar cells, energy-saving light bulbs, air conditioners, and personal computers. They are also the world's worst polluter, with 28% of the world's carbon emissions from fossil fuel consumption and industrial processes being released. As you can see in the photos displayed, China's sky is not a pleasant sight. Not only that, but the stars cannot be seen in the night sky due to the amount of pollution in the air. Our government very much believes in climate change and its effects, which is a smart choice because by looking at the proposal sketch, most of our main cities will be affected by melting ice and higher seas. Furthermore, we have several plans in place to lower not only our carbon output, but other countries like the US, as they are the second worst country releasing 16% of the world's carbon emissions. As we are the mass producer of so many industrial properties, it is very difficult to lower our carbon output. But if other countries like the US and India lower theirs, then we can keep producing the industrial properties and more slowly work on a long-term solution to break down our emissions. Having a communist political system, it makes China a strict country to live in, but also a smart country, as the rules are strict yet simple to follow. As we produce the largest percentage of industrial properties in the world, not only will one or two countries struggle without it, but almost all countries will. As of 1996, we have been actively funding the International Food Policy Research Institute, a research-based organisation that delivers practical solutions to effectively reduce poverty and improve food security in developing countries. In addition, we have also established the International Centre for Agricultural and Rural Development in support of the China Programme, a program aimed to improve China's agricultural and rural development, as we believe food scarcity is a major concern on our economic growth and stability in global leadership. As a growing nation, we have an extensive amount of international partnerships across the world that offer support in relation to our agriculture and rural development. Our partnerships include Canada, United States, Australia, India, Germany, France, United Kingdom, and various other major developed countries. In support of other countries, we have responded to multiple environmental concerns, such as developing climate-friendly technology in collaboration with the US, abolishing the use of harmful hydrochlorofluorocarbons, and agreeing to emission reductions. As a nation, we believe our response to these issues provides significant evidence of our global leadership, as well as raises concerns about emissions in regards to climate change that prove not only to be detrimental to our nation alone, but also the world as a whole. In relation to foreign relationships, we also support countries that are under major threat by Western nations, such as Zimbabwe, North Korea, and Iran. In terms of alliances, our allies are the US, North Korea, and Russia. In regards to the US, we have both collaborated and agreed upon strengthening existing clean energy and environmental issues concerning climate change as of 2009. In partnership with North Korea, our virtual alliance and defence relationship was established in the form of a treaty in 1961, and since then has recognised us as being the largest and the dominant provider of aid and partner in trade with North Korea. As of Russia, our strong economic and military relations are considered to be most positive and stable, for we both agree and support global order, as well as the urging need to arise from world conflict and war. Our most threatening opponent is Japan and its military alliance with the US, as this poses a direct threat to our global leadership. We fear that, in many years to come, Japan will rise as a political or military power and diminish us from economic growth and development. However, in defence, we have strengthened our ties with Russia in the hope to overcome this challenge with the support of our allies when the time comes.
Climate change is a serious issue affecting the world at large, and China is no exception. We face many problems caused by climate change that we are currently addressing, such as the smog that blankets our cities, the heavy metal pollution that is damaging our water, soils, and atmosphere, rising temperatures and water levels that endanger our population and land, along with resource safety such as our food and water being affected by chemical pollutants. The most noticeable issue is the smog that blankets our cities, which is a combination of fog and smoke, the smoke of which is caused by factory emissions, car exhausts, and coal burning. This smog actually endangered the hosting of the 2008 Olympics, as to secure the bid for the Olympics, we had to ensure the air quality was safe for the athletes. This smog is dangerous because it can not only obscure vision, but is also toxic for living things, and breathing it in can cause lung problems such as asthma and infection. The issue has gotten so bad that a 4-level alert system has been put in place in 2013. The system goes as such: 4th level blue, which means the least severe air pollution at 200, which is still a very high level of air pollution, and requires outdoor activities such as PE to shut down for a time. Next is 3rd level yellow, when the air quality reaches 300, meaning all construction sites not reaching a certain level of dust control must be shut down, and heavy polluting traffic must be rerouted away from cities. 2nd level orange means that the air quality has reached beyond 400, and the air is considered to be hazardous. During this time, all outdoor activities must be stopped, including just walking, running, any sort of park activities, or barbecuing. The final and most severe is 1st level red, where the air quality is over 450 and is considered highly hazardous, and the air is not suitable for any form of outside activity. It's incredibly obscuring, all schools are required to close, and vehicles are limited to being driven on days based on their vehicle registration. The smog has only gotten to the red level once, which was in December of 2015. This is a drastic change from 10 years ago when a monitoring system was not even required. Another factor that contributes to our air pollution are the heavy metal pollutants that are affecting our atmosphere. It's usually caused by high reactive atomic mass metals such as lead and mercury, which can be found from multiple sources, such as the lead in petrol, industrial effluents, and the leaching of metal ions from acid rain. These pollutants are causing damage not only to our atmosphere, but also our water sources and soils, affecting our food supplies and drinking water. This can lead to extensive damage to human organs such as kidney and liver failure, digestive issues, and damage to the nervous system. The heavy metal pollution has been a problem in our country for the last 3 decades, and we've been attempting to combat it since its discovery through monitoring the sulfur and carbon dioxide levels. Another form of pollution that bothers our country is the chemical pollution caused by pesticide over-application and various other chemical pollutants that are tainting our land and water sources. These chemical pollutants are causing damage to crop growth and endangering the crops and water safety for consumption. Consuming these chemical pollutants can have multiple side effects, including the growth of multiple cancer clusters in the consumer. Due to our country's great population and its continued growth, the impact of our food being polluted or destroyed could be monumental. So to prevent this, we have taken steps to purchase and lease agricultural land in other countries to help support future growth and sustainability, as well as to help prevent the rising temperature and water levels from crippling our food supplies. The rising temperature of the Earth is having a serious impact on the water levels of many nations and countries, including our own. It is predicted that should the temperature rise by 4 degrees Celsius globally, then a large portion of China would be flooded, a large amount of which is our agricultural and urban areas. The Shanghai region alone has over 20 million people living on land that could be lost to the rising waters should the 4-degree increase happen. To take steps to prevent this, our country has agreed with many others to the Kyoto Protocol's limit of a global increase of 2 degrees Celsius, meaning the world will be doing its best to lower emissions and keep the increase of temperature globally as low as possible. While other nations have agreed to this as well, China faces possibly the most severe repercussions should we fail, as nearly a quarter of the world's population who is at risk of flooding due to the 4-degree increase live in China, which is more than the US or Europe combined. Should we be able to limit the increase to 2 degrees, then we should be limiting the amount of people displaced by the water levels from 145 million to 64 million.
Climate change is a global issue. Human activities have had a discernible impact on our environment, the consequences of which are felt today and threaten the future of humanity. It is an issue that transcends state boundaries and requires international cooperation to address. The People's Republic of China is compelled to take action in response to climate change, and our positive contribution can be felt both internationally and domestically. Our participation has been positive, flexible, and compromising, and we are committed to working closely with other members of the international community. When considering climate change, it's important to acknowledge the connection between climate change and the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th centuries was a period of great innovation and development. However, the progress and industry expansion achieved by our developed neighbours came at the cost to the environment. It is crucial to consider historical responsibility and accountability. With this in mind, we hope to respond to climate change with principles of equity and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. Differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities is a key consideration to our response to climate change. Negotiating limitations and restrictions to energy consumption is a delicate subject and requires a sound understanding of the concerns of developing countries. There is a clear differentiation between consumption dominated by industrial use versus the luxury of residential use. Development, and therefore consumption, is necessary to our country to provide basic amenities, and any limitations and restrictions must allow for such development or risk becoming a barrier to prosperity. It is our recommendation that developed countries make a further commitment to carbon emission reductions before developing countries reassess their own emission obligations. Such measures protect developing countries of their right to economic growth relative to developed countries. China is currently experiencing a period of rapid development, with urbanisation and industrialisation being obvious areas of growth. China's gross domestic profit has risen remarkably over the last few decades, but this growth has in turn led to a rise in energy consumption and an increase in carbon dioxide emissions. However, it is interesting to note both historical cumulative emissions and current per capita carbon dioxide emissions are far below those in developed countries. Moreover, included in China's national greenhouse gas inventories are emissions from exported manufacture. For the year of 2003, it was estimated that emissions resulting from manufacture exported to the United States accounted for 14% of China's national emissions. Be that as it may, China is taking a proactive approach with national actions to address greenhouse emissions in a measurable, reportable, and verifiable manner. The rapid development China has experienced in recent years continues to be a key focus of our long-term thinking. This focus includes economic development, poverty eradication, improved standards of living, environmental protection, and a response to combating climate change. We are very interested in new and renewable energy, energy conservation, and international technological cooperation. We recognise our social responsibility to actively participate in global governance and the international community, and are committed to identifying methods to control emissions in a market-orientated, flexible manner. China has already taken action to lower greenhouse emissions with the development of the Agenda 21 Sustainable Development Strategy. In addition, we have set up a coordinating group on climate made up of representatives from relevant government agencies and ministries to ensure a unified approach towards climate change. China has a particularly invested interest in responding to climate change, as we are in a highly vulnerable position. China is among those countries that would be most severely affected by the adverse impacts of climate change. Firstly, China's economic development zones are ports, often concentrated to the coastline from Beijing to Guangdong, and rising sea levels are a particular concern. If the urban and economic centres of Shanghai and Guangzhou were affected by rising sea levels, it would necessitate a relocation of 67 million people. Secondly, China has a very limited amount of arable land, and coupled with the predicted population growth, changes to agriculture would be a serious threat to food security. Climate change is an issue of great significance to China, and we have already made substantial contributions to combating this global issue, with a particular emphasis on population control, development of alternative energy technologies, reforestation and ecologically minded agriculture, and the promotion of energy efficiency. The Kyoto Protocol was a significant step towards environmental protection and is a binding agreement for emission reduction targets and timetables. China signed the Kyoto Protocol on the 29th of May 1998, and it was ratified on the 30th of August 2002. The Kyoto Protocol expires in 2020. In 2009, the National People's Congress approved the Climate Change Resolution, which provides a framework of basic policies and guidelines for future climate change management and reform. The recently established National Energy Commission aims to improve energy management and strengthen cooperation among ministries on energy conservation and climate change. In June 2015, China submitted our intended nationally determined contribution to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change ahead of the 21st Conference of Parties, or the Paris Climate Summit, in December 2015. China's INDC identifies emission reductions targets and reaffirms our intentions to peak carbon emissions by 2030 and to reduce carbon intensity by 60 to 65% from 2005 levels. China will collaborate with international investors to actively pursue clean energy research. The Paris Climate Summit was a historic milestone, with 195 participant countries uniting in a commitment to address climate change. The Paris Agreement is a post-2020 climate change action plan, with the objective of limiting a rise in average global temperatures to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by the end of this century. China played a leading role in negotiations, illustrating our sense of responsibility as a proactive builder in global climate change governance and our commitment to clean and sustainable development. China's progressive stance on climate change policy is also driven by the urgent need to respond to a serious air pollution problem. The severity of China's air pollution is partly due to China's growing energy needs and a reliance on coal power plants, which has significantly contributed to China's contribution of carbon dioxide emissions. Going forward, air pollution will continue to be a high priority, and we hope to greatly improve air quality with our commitment to emission reduction targets. In an effort to address carbon emissions, China has accelerated the adjustment of its industry and energy structures by improving energy efficiency, lowering carbon emissions, and exploring new low-carbon technology developments. We have also initiated carbon emission trading pilots in 7 provinces and cities, and low-carbon development pilots in 42 provinces and cities. By 2014, the following has been achieved. Carbon dioxide emissions per unit of gross domestic profit is 33.8% lower than the 2005 level. The share of non-fossil fuels in primary energy consumption is at 11.2%. The forested area and forest stock volume have increased respectively by 21.6 million hectares and 2.188 billion cubic metres compared to the 2005 levels. The installed capacity of hydropower is 300 gigawatts, 2.57 times that of the 2005 levels. The installed capacity of on-grid wind power is 95.81 gigawatts, 90 times that of 2005. The installed capacity of solar power is 28.05 gigawatts, 400 times that of 2005. The installed capacity of nuclear power is 19.88 gigawatts, 2.9 times that of 2005. In an effort to address climate change, China announced internationally that by 2020 it will lower carbon dioxide emissions per unit of gross domestic profit by 40% to 45% from the 2005 level, increase the share of non-fossil fuels in primary energy consumption to approximately 15%, increase the forested area by 40 million hectares and the forest stock volume by 1.3 billion cubic metres compared to the 2005 level. In doing this, China has enacted and implemented the National Programme on Climate Change, the Work Plan for Controlling Greenhouse Gas Emissions during the 12th five-year plan period, the Comprehensive Work Plan for Energy Conservation and Emissions Reductions for the 12th five-year plan period, the 12th five-year plan period for energy conservation and emission reductions, the 2014 to 2015 action plan for energy conservation, emissions reductions and low carbon development, and the National Plan on Climate Change. Based on national circumstances, development stage, sustainable development strategy and international responsibility, China has nationally determined its actions by 2030 as follows. To achieve the peaking of carbon dioxide emissions around 2030, making best efforts to peak early. To lower carbon dioxide emissions per unit of the gross domestic profit by 60 to 65% from the 2005 level. To increase the share of non-fossil fuels in primary energy consumption to around 20%. and to increase the forest stock volume by around 4.5 billion cubic metres on the 2005 level. As a responsible developing country, China's desired outcome for the Paris Climate Summit was to reaffirm an international commitment to the transition to low-carbon development and to strike a resolution to funding and technology transfers to developing countries. United by our common interest and in the spirit of international cooperation, we hope to establish a global climate governance regime that promotes and develops climate change innovation with enhanced policy coordination.